something simple and warm. I had wanted it to feel safe, familiar, like the kind of night that wraps around you and eases the exhaustion of everyday life. I thought an intimate gathering with our closest friends and family would help lift his spirits. For weeks, I had watched him sink further into himself, buried under work, coming home late, eating dinner without a word, and carrying an emptiness in his eyes that no smile could disguise. I believed that surrounding him with laughter, good wine, and the comfort of people who cared for us would remind him of everything that waited for him outside the office. The house was bathed in soft, golden lamplight. Gentle jazz whispered through the speakers, wine glasses clinked, and laughter curled through the air like smoke from a candle. For a little while, it seemed to work. I felt the heaviness lift, if only slightly. Later in the night, a smaller group of us drifted into the living room. The stories began, light-hearted, nostalgic, full of the kind of affectionate teasing only friends who've known you for years can pull off. Someone mentioned Marcus's recent battle with a flat-pack coffee table, how the instructions had managed to defeat him. I added a few playful details, thinking it would get a laugh and nothing more. Everyone chuckled. One story led into another. How Marcus spoke to our dog as though it were a child. How he left mugs half filled with coffee all around the house. How laundry was his eternal blind spot. I thought of it all as harmless fun, the kind of gentle ribbing couples endure without consequence. Every so often I looked at him. He smiled once or twice, but only faintly, and the smile never lingered. His face stayed composed, his hands resting still in his lap. He wasn't visibly angry, but he wasn't part of the room either. I told myself it was exhaustion. I told myself it was nothing. And I turned back to the laughter around me, not knowing that something fragile inside him was giving way. At some point, I noticed he had slipped out. I assumed he'd gone for air, or perhaps to fetch something from the kitchen. The night went on. People trickled out with hugs and goodbyes. The music faded. The house grew quiet. But Marcus didn't return. When I finally looked for him, I found our bedroom dark and empty. His wallet, his phone, his keys were gone. A slow coil of unease wound tight in my chest. I called him, but the line went straight to voicemail. Still, I convinced myself it was temporary, that he just needed space, that he'd be home by morning. Morning came, but not Marcus. What I received instead was a message. A few lines. Plain. Calm. Irreversible. He told me he had felt invisible for a long time, worn down by being the punchline of jokes that I had joined in on instead of stopping. He said it wasn't just once, it was years of moments that left him feeling small. He said he was tired of pretending it didn't hurt, tired of watching me laugh while he folded into silence, tired of being a stranger in his own home. And then he wrote that he was leaving, not out of anger, but because staying had become its own betrayal. I read those words again and again, each one pressing heavier against my chest. I called him over and over, desperate for an answer, but none ever came. 2 days later, I came home from work and found a moving truck parked outside. Inside, our house looked like a shell. His closet was emptied. The framed photo of us from our anniversary was gone. Even the chipped ceramic mug he used every single morning had vanished. The silence wasn't just emptiness, it was finality. Friends began to reach out, some surprised, others worried. A few admitted they had noticed that night what I hadn't. One said they saw the distance in his posture while the rest of us laughed. Another confessed that as they left, Marcus had quietly told them, "This place doesn't feel like mine anymore." That line struck something deep in me. It was never just about one night. It was about all the moments I had failed to notice, the small cuts that accumulated until he could no longer bear them, the quiet erosion of his dignity that I mistook for resilience. In the days after, I sat down and wrote him a letter. Not a text, not an email, but a real letter with ink and paper. I told him I was sorry. I told him I finally saw what I had done, how I had failed him, how I wished I had chosen him over the crowd. I mailed it with trembling hands, hoping for a reply. Weeks passed. Then one day an envelope arrived. It wasn't his handwriting, it was from a lawyer. Divorce papers. No accusations, no anger, just documents and silence. I sat on the couch we had picked out together years before, pen in hand, and signed them. The ink spread across the page, sealing what I could never undo. Now, when I'm at gatherings and laughter turns toward one person, I pay attention. I see who laughs. I see who stays quiet. And I think about Marcus. About the man who once loved me with a gentle, steady devotion I didn't protect. I remember his quiet presence, his soft kindness, and I live with the ache of having realized too late what it meant to lose him.